Hello everyone, today we are diving deep into a unique intersection of game theory, narrative design and sociopolitical commentary by examining Death Stranding. This game isn't just about delivering a cargo across a fractured America, it is a profound exploration of what it means to be a citizen when society has been torn apart. In Death Stranding, we are placed in a world where traditional social bonds have disintegrated and citizens are left isolated, much like the fragmented communities described in classical sociological theories, how shared beliefs and collective rituals knit a society together. Here, however, we are thrust into a world where isolation is the norm and every action you take, be it delivery, construction of a bridge, or even leaving a simple message, is a step towards reconstructing society because every player who plays this game is a member of this society. Moreover, when we think of the social contract theory proposed by philosophers like Rousseau and Hobbes, Death Stranding challenges these traditional ideas. Rather than a government enforcing order, the citizens must actively rebuild the society themselves. Due to the fragile situation and lack of power, the government formed the transportation company Bridges, which functions as a facilitator so that every citizen in the game context, every player, has to contribute to the society to rebuild the United States of America. This concept is mirrored in the game's mechanic, where every delivery, every structure you build isn't just a gameplay objective, it is an act of civic engagement. By intertwining narrative design with mechanics that force players to consider the welfare of others, even strangers, the game invites us to reflect on how digital communities function today. As digital connectivity becomes a staple in modern life, Death Stranding parallels our own struggles with isolation in a hyper-connected yet often impersonal digital era. In an era of social media and online networks, we are all in some way participants in a modern reimagining of citizenship. In many respects, the game prompts us to ask, how do we rebuild society when trust and connection are eroded by distance and fear? Today's discussion will not only unpack these themes but also examine how the game's mechanics, its delivery system, its network building are meticulously crafted to simulate the delicate process of societal restoration. So, buckle up as we journey through the broken roads and unexpected bridges of Death Stranding and discover how each step in the game mirrors the ongoing effort to rebuild the community in our own fragmented world. Death Stranding redefines citizenship by transforming it from a passive state into an active process of community building. Unlike traditional narratives where being a citizen means merely existing within the confines of society, here every interaction, every delivery, and every message becomes an act of rebuilding that society. At the heart of this process is the innovative Strand System. This system allows players to leave behind structures, signs, and even help with tough terrain challenges. Each player contributes to a collective network, a digital tapestry that bridges isolated communities. This is a brilliant implementation of cooperative gameplay mechanics from a game theory perspective. When you build a structure or leave behind a helpful message, you are not just advancing your game but contributing to a communal network that other players can use later. Every small contribution isn't isolated. It is part of a larger independent system that rewards players, not just for individual progress, but for strengthening the community as a whole. This idea resonates with Robert Putnam's concept of social capital, where networks of relationships among people enable society to function effectively, and is present in these mechanics. Every delivery builds social capital, echoing Putnam's argument that trust and cooperation are essential for societal success. Similarly, Jürgen Habermas's idea about communicative action resonates here. In the game, the messages and structures you leave behind act as means for dialogue, connecting isolated individuals into a quasi-public sphere that defies physical barriers. These mechanics transform what could be mundane tasks into an actual communal service. Instead of simply surviving, you are actively participating in the rebuild of a society. This redefinition of citizenship, where every individual is both a builder and a beneficiary, challenges a conventional idea of governance. Here, being a citizen is not about adhering to rules imposed from above, it is about actively engaging in the collective process of restoring order and connection. Thus, in Death Stranding, citizenship is less about predefined roles and more about the dynamic process of engaging with your community. This model mirrors modern participatory democracy and network governance. The game mechanics aren't just playful challenges and commentary on the real-world importance of connectivity and cooperation in sustaining a healthy order. Just as online communities today share content and support each other, players in Death Stranding forge connections that transcend in the confines of a single playthrough, highlights that rebuilding society is a shared journey in both virtual and real worlds. One of the most compelling narrative threads in Death Stranding is inherent tension between the desire for connection and the instinct to isolate oneself for survival. On the one hand, isolation offers safety and self-preservation. On the other hand, our deep-seated human need for belonging compels us to risk vulnerability for the sake of community. In Death Stranding, isolation isn't just a physical state, it is a deep-rooted psychological response to a world in ruins. This duality is evident in both narrative moments and gameplay mechanics. On one side, isolation provides a semblance of safety. It is a natural response to a chaos, a way to protect oneself from the unknown dangers lurking in every shadow. Yet, on the other side, there is an almost irresistible human drive to connect, reach out, and rebuild what was lost. This fundamental tension mirrors political and psychological debates about the role of the individual versus the collective. This duality mirrors debates in political philosophy. Consider the tension between communitarianism and individualism. Communitarianism emphasizes the importance of community bonds and shared values, suggesting that our identities are inseparably linked to the groups we form. In contrast, individualism champions personal autonomy and self-reliance, which can lead to isolation if taken to extremes. Death Stranding forces players to navigate this tension. You are constantly weighing the risk of exposing yourself to a danger against the potential benefits of connecting with other survivors. From a game design perspective, this tension is ingeniously built into the risk-reward mechanics. Each journey into hostile territory is a calculated gamble. Venturing into a hostile environment might mean a better delivery route or critical connection, but also a higher chance of encountering threats. Here, game theory comes into play as players assess probabilities and make strategic decisions. These decisions are reminiscent of classical dilemmas in cooperative game theory, where trust and risk are independent factors defining outcomes for the group. The decision-making process becomes a microcosm of larger societal choices, balancing individual safety with the common good. Thus, the duality of connection in Death Stranding is not only a gameplay mechanic but also a rich narrative commentary. It challenges players to balance the instinct to protect oneself with the inherent need to reach out and rebuild, echoing our own internal struggles in an increasingly fragmented world. Let's dig deeper into how the game's mechanics serve as a mirror for real-world connectivity. The asynchronous multiplayer aspect of Death Stranding is more than just an innovative feature. It is a profound commentary on how individuals' actions contribute to a collective whole. When you build a bridge or clear a path, you're not just advancing your game but laying down infrastructure that may aid another player's journey later. This is a practical demonstration of cooperative game theory. In cooperative game theory, players' actions are interdependent, meaning that one person's move can have a cascading effect on the entire group. The game's design encapsulates this perfectly. Every seemingly isolated decision becomes a part of a larger network, akin to how every tweet, post, or shared file on our digital platforms can ripple outwards, influencing communities far beyond the original context. From the perspective of the mechanic dynamic aesthetic framework, the mechanics, such as living structures or messages, create dynamics that encourages players to collaborate, producing the aesthetics experience of connectedness and shared purpose. This design choice isn't accidental. It is a deliberate effort by Hideo Kojima and his team to simulate the real-world power of communal effort. In today's society, where digital connections sometimes feel superficial, Death Stranding offers a poignant reminder that every small act of sharing or cooperation can contribute to a much larger, more meaningful network. This design echoes how modern digital platforms operate. Think about social media, open source projects, or even urban planning initiatives, where the cumulative effect of many small contributions can lead to significant transformative change. Just a single tweet or a small community project can spark a larger movement. Every delivery in Death Stranding contributes to the larger tapestry of a rejuvenated society. Additionally, the ripple effect of your actions is reminiscent of concept found in network theory. In these systems, each node or player is interconnected, and the strength of this network depends on the quality and frequency of these connections. The game cleverly simulates this dynamic, emphasizing that the network's health, and by extension society, relies on ongoing, decentralized participation. In essence, the mechanics of Death Stranding are more than just gameplay. They are an allegory for how modern, digital societies function. They remind us that even small actions can catalyze monumental change when integrated into a broader system. This perspective enriches the gaming experience and offers us valuable insights into the potential of collective action in our everyday lives. While Death Stranding offers a unique and optimistic twist on the post-apocalyptic storytelling, it is not alone in exploring themes of isolation, survival, and the rebuilding of society. Many games within the genre use these tropes, often to very different narrative and design ends. Consider The Last of Us. Here, the focus is on survival amid overwhelming loss and decay. This title delves into a brutal world where survival often comes at the expense of trust. The narrative drives home the horror of isolation, yet it also emphasizes the bonds that forms in times of crisis and the emotional toll of isolation, where every connection carries the hope of human warmth and the risk of betrayal. Unlike Death Stranding, which champions connectivity as a way to rebuild, The Last of Us often paints a bleaker picture where human connection is both a source of hope and profound vulnerability. In the Fallout series, the players navigate a sprawling, open world where the remnants of societies are scattered across vast, post-nuclear wastelands and in isolated enclaves. The gameplay mechanics encourage exploration and scavenging, but community building is a secondary emergent narrative rather than a central mechanic. While community building is not always a primary mechanic in Fallout, the emergent narratives of faction alliances and settlement reconstruction echo real-world challenges of decentralization and the need for grassroots organizations. Then there is Bioshock, which, while not strictly post-apocalyptic in the traditional sense, delves into the collapse of utopian ideas. Its narrative critiques unchecked individualism and the failure of society to balance personal ambitions with communal welfare, a recurring theme also found in Death Stranding, though with a more helpful resolution by emphasizing cooperation over isolation. Even in Horizon Zero Dawn, players encounter a world where nature has reclaimed the ruins of human civilization. The isolated tribes and the lingering vestiges of advanced technology form a narrative about rediscovering lost connections and forging new bonds. The juxtaposition of primitive survival and high-tech relics in the game creates a compelling backdrop for discussing how societies adapt and evolve after collapse. The tropes of isolation unite these titles. The notion that individuals are left to fend for themselves and human yearning for connection in the wake of a disaster. Whether the lone wandering gradually stitch together a network of safe havens in Death Stranding or the small, tightly knit group in The Last of Us fighting for survival, these games use narrative and gameplay to explore what it means to be belong. In many ways, these tropes reflect our own societal challenges, balancing individual autonomy with the need for community and using our digital and real-life network to overcome isolation. By comparing these narratives, we see how game designers use similar tropes in diverse ways to comment on broader societal issues. Whether through a bleak portrayal of trust in The Last of Us or the fragmented alliances in Fallout, these games invite us to reflect on the balance between individualism and community. This reflection is central to our understanding of citizenship both in virtual and real worlds. As we drew our exploration to a close, Death Stranding stands out as more than just a game. It is a compelling experiment in redefining citizenship through game design. Challenging players to build connections across a fragmented world forces us to reconsider what being part of a community means. Through its innovative mechanics, the game suggests that every small act, every bridge built, or message left behind is a step towards overcoming isolation, both in the game and our increasingly digital lives. Fusing game theory, narrative design, and sociopolitical commentary in Death Stranding creates an engaging gameplay experience. It offers valuable insight into how modern society might approach challenges of isolation and community building. Rather than a passive bystander in a predetermined system, you became an active agent, contributing to a larger effort to restore societal order. Whether viewed through the lens of cooperative game theory, the MDA framework, or sociological theories of social capital and communicative action, the game challenges us to see every action as part of a larger tapestry of shared responsibility. Every delivery, every connection built, and every risk taken in the name of community echoes the modern ideal of participatory democracy and network governance. This design philosophy has far-reaching implications for the future of game design. It demonstrates that games can be more than entertainment. They can serve as an interactive model for understanding and even critiquing our social structures. The interplay between individual risk and communal reward in Death Stranding enhances gameplay. It reflects real-world challenges, urging us to consider how digital and physical communities are constructed and maintained. In a world where online and offline isolation is increasingly common, the game's message is clear. Meaningful connection is vital for survival and growth. As game designers continue to innovate, the lessons from Death Stranding reminds us that every small action can contribute to building a better, more connected future, both in our virtual landscapes and the communities we call home. As we see these themes echoed across other post-apocalyptic narratives, from the raw survival instinct of The Last of Us to the scattered resilience in Fallout, one thing is clear. Modern game design has the power to reflect, critique, and even inspire change in how we understand our roles as citizens in both virtual and real world. Thanks for joining me on this extensive exploration of games and citizenship through the lens of Death Stranding. I hope this deep dive has given you fresh insight into how game mechanics, narrative, and sociopolitical ideas can come together to challenge our understanding of community and individual responsibility. I would love to hear what you think. Do you see parallels between these in-game mechanics and how we build community in our everyday lives? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into game theory and design, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more content. Until next time.